Welcome, everybody. This is Robbie back for another week of Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. This week we have a guest, so I had to do an intro. Um, I think you're going to really enjoy the show. Our guest is Sharuthi Reddy, and she has a pretty inspiring story. Stephen's going to do an interview with her. I'll ask a couple of questions, but I think you'll enjoy this talk. We also, too, are not going to abandon our structure, just have a guest host, which is what some people do. Shruti's also going to be a part of our conversation about podcasts and AI. So sit back, take a listen, and enjoy this week. All right, here we go. Welcome, everybody. It's Robbie again from Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. Here we are again for another week. And today it's going to be a little bit different than what you normally experience. Stephen, are you there?
Hello, my friends. It is I, Stephen Kennedy, board certified atheist at your service. And Robbie, as you know, anytime you want to discuss atheism, I am at your service as well.
Okay, you know the answer to that. But
One
more
day.
importantly, don't you have someone you want to introduce to the audience?
I do, yes. Sorry, I got sidetracked. I am happy to welcome a special guest of ours. Her name is Shruti Reddy. She's a close friend of mine for, I believe, over 15 years now, from the San Francisco Bay Area. And she's a dance and wellness coach who left her full time corporate job to follow her passion for movement, creativity, and connection. And with a background in Indian dance, fitness coaching, and commercial modeling, she now blends performance and wellness to inspire others to live more embodied, joyful lives. And she leads corporate wellness events. She choreographs unforgettable dance experiences, and she helps others reconnect with themselves through movement. Wow! So this is going to be a great conversation. We have so much to talk about, so many questions to ask her. So thank you for joining us, Shruti.
Thank you so much for that warm intro and welcoming. This is probably the most civil conversation we had so far, Kennedy.
And here we go.
Thank
You
you
know,
for your generous welcome.
This is great.
I
This
was
is
just
great.
saying these wonderful things about you, and I was thinking in my head while I was speaking, wow, this is probably the nicest I've ever been to Shruti. So you actually, yeah,
I am so glad we are on the same page for that part.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one that gives Stephen a hard time. Um, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So let's start off, folks. Stephen, did you listen to any podcasts? You know what? Actually, I know that you mentioned that you really didn't in our briefing, but I listened to Michelle Obama's new podcast. Did I tell you this?
No, and I saw that a preview of it somewhere, and I was thinking I do not want to listen to Michelle Obama, but please continue.
Why not?
I'm just over her. I'm just over
Okay.
her.
Well, anyway, I did listen to it, just because it's a new podcast and it debuted in the top 10. And, my goal every week is to try to listen to top podcasts. So I listened to it. And I think my take is one, it's not political, it's totally lifestyle.
Okay.
All she's doing is she's talking to people and talking about their perspectives on life. And there's just not a lot of political conversation in it at all. It's with her brother. So it's
Hmm.
more of a sibling podcast. This week she had your favorite friend on. I didn't listen to this week's, but she had your favorite person on.
Oh no, no, no!
Yes, she did.
Oh,
I'm curious, who is the favorite person? Like,
oh.
Jay Shetty, Shruti.
Jay Shetty. Jay
oh,
Shetty. Oh.
oh.
Let me ask something, Shruti. What do you think about Jay Shetty? Please Tell me you're not friends. Tell me you're not
Throw me
friends with
under
him.
the bus right away.
Do you know him
You know,
personally?
I when I first came across him, I was very intrigued, and I was like, wow, someone young and someone speaking so mindfully and, saying all the right things, but also sounded really grounded. And I was myself in the transition of like, coming from like, I am a very loud person and very outgoing. So I myself was in that transition of like learning a little bit, tapping into the mindfulness and being grounded. So I was very intrigued by him and the way, the energy that he was carrying and sharing his wisdom. But over the
Well,
years,
that's the problem right there. It's not his wisdom.
that I
Okay,
was
well,
coming to it.
let's. I think she was
Okay,
just getting
Um,
to that.
sorry, I
She
get
was
over
getting to
yeah.
that.
excited.
And
So
this is just about the podcast he was on. But go ahead, Shruti. I want to hear your
yeah.
perspective.
So over the years, then when more and more stuff that came out about him, about his content and and that exactly is my problem with so many of them. Like, even the essence of yoga, I've taken like the traditional yoga classes and what and how they teach versus more of the Western yoga, and which is, I do still take them, but the and how, I don't know. I'm always tapping into like, is it, someone that they didn't monetize, but then someone else comes in and look at, oh, I can totally monetize this one and do it. So I think, he knew all the connections and he knew what to say and what to do with, commercializing it. And if it wasn't him, somebody else will do it exactly. So it's just, I think that's the kind of world we live in, sadly, that people are always. Um, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. I just thought. So yeah, that's like, so now I'm not a big fan. I would rather, thank God for the internet. We can still get access to the people who originally created that kind of content, and I believe that is their content. So I don't listen to him as anymore. Actually, not even as much. I don't listen to him anymore because I just think that the authenticity of what I originally liked him, that kind of got faded. So yeah, I'm not not a fan anymore, sadly.
There
Thank
you go, Stephen. There you
you.
go. You
Yes.
have somebody
Yeah.
who does not like him like you do.
Yeah. Now,
Well,
I started off with very much appreciative of his content, and then now, I mean, I guess people know what to do, what to advance their own career. But I just hope that he was authentic about it, and at least you can still use someone else's content, but just say where it originated from.
yeah.
That's what we all expect when other people are using our culture to do it, all this cultural appropriation and all of that. So that's only the thing, right? Like if he would have said, hey, this is what I learned from so and so, that would just change the whole game for me for on how I
Hmm.
look up.
And do you feel that his pretty green eyes and that suave
okay, I
attitude
think
has
we're going
anything
off
to
of
do with?
topic here.
I
I'm going to have
no,
to
but
reel this back in,
okay.
Stephen. We're going to have
Let's
to reel
do
this
that.
back in. We're not going
Okay,
to
let's
go
reel it
down.
back in. Let's reel it
Yes,
back
yes, yes. This is about podcasts that we listen to this past.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're dissecting a podcast and we're trying to understand why are
No,
people attracted to it.
I didn't even listen to the one where he was on. I listened to the one where Kiki Palmer was on. I don't know if you know who she is, but
Yeah.
she was on there talking about how success, the only way you can actually reach success is through disappointments. And so she was talking about that, which I thought was pretty
Mm,
interesting. And she was pretty authentic about her journey and the failures that she had to get to the point of where she is. And she talked about a movie that a lot of people know her from when she was a little girl called Akilah and the Bee, and
Oh, okay.
how when it first came out, everybody thought that it was going to be so great and it was going to be so amazing. And when it came out to the box office, it failed. It bombed. No one went to go see it
mm,
or anything. But what has happened over years because of streaming, how the technology has developed, it's become this cult classic and everybody knows her for it. And it became this sort of iconic movie that she's known for that has helped her trajectory. But at the time, it was a failure. But now it's
mm.
seen as a success. And I thought that was an amazing story. Oops, my microphone fell. I thought that was an amazing story that she mentioned in the podcast. So so yeah, I listened to that one. You know, of course I listen to all my other normal podcasts, but that was what I listened to. Suruthi, did you listen to anything? Have you listened to any
Not
podcast?
not in the last, I actually listened to one of yours, so that was an interesting
Well,
podcast.
that's good. We love
Because,
that.
I enjoyed, I mean, just knowing, the faces and the discussion, I just like knew, and I I was more entertained by the way you are communicating with Stephen. Just like I was like, I can totally relate to her. So I just had a little fun
Well,
time hearing it. But
well,
I do know some of my friends have like had health side and fitness side and different and lifestyle side. So I every now and then tap into it just to kind of like hear it. But I enjoy them.
Okay. What were you saying, Stephen? You were saying something.
uh, oh, I was going to ask you. So this podcast with Michelle Obama and her brother, they
Mhm.
are. It's is it a standard for them to bring on guests and kind of dissect human life in different aspects of human life through their guests, or what is the?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, that's what it is. That's why I said there's no political part of it at all. I wanted to listen to it just because it debuted so high.
hmm,
And I wanted to see kind of what was that about. So
okay.
I
So it
listened
sounds
to it.
like it was a good. At least the one you listened to was a good one.
It was a good one, but I will say this. I don't know if I'm going to I mean, I haven't cast Michelle Obama out to the wild like you have,
No, I
but
didn't. I didn't. I didn't say that. I think why are
but
you? I feel so judged by you, Robbie. I just don't understand what we got to do
there we
to
go.
kind of
You only
real.
feel judged by me because I do not subscribe to being an atheist.
I want to bring you to my side. I want you to see the light, if I may say so.
Well, there's a lot of things in this life we want and many we don't get. So we have to continue to move forward on our paths. That being said, I with regard to this podcast, as I said, it's people they bring on and they do talk about life, what sort of lessons and things through it. I liked listening to it. I haven't cast Michelle Obama into the wild. I wouldn't do that. But I don't know if I like the podcast to listen to it enough. So
Okay.
that's my take on it. But I definitely don't think it's a bad podcast. And I love the dynamics between a couple people. We have that on ours. So that's my take on it.
So
I
you
did read
recommend?
her book, Becoming. Have you guys read her book?
I did.
Yeah, that was a good read.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I read through it while taking my bubble bath a couple days ago. It was fantastic. Sipping on champagne,
Mm.
reading "Becoming" by
Why
Michelle.
do I feel like that's your dream, but you haven't reached that yet?
Actually, that sounds pretty good now that I think of it. Um, but what is that about?
Well, it wasn't, I actually didn't read. I was doing the audiobook, and I really loved that it was her own voice narrating the book. So I almost felt like she was just telling me her story and her. It was all about like all of like who she was before she met Obama and who she was in the beginning times when they were dating and when they got married and how her interaction with her mom. She's I regardless of her political stand or my political stand, I just think she's a very eloquent lady who stood her ground and is very good at communicating what she wants. I think she's a very good role model for the young girls, or even like anybody that's looking to being in the um, public eye and being with someone who is like Obama, who was so on the TV or going on the presidential political, she still maintains her own stance and she still communicates and the value that she on her own has. So I really admire her for that.
Hmm.
Yes, I mean that I don't think you could have said it any better, Shruti, because one thing I will say about that book is the thing that came through the most to me is what her parents instilled in them as kids and what came out of her. She has such a strong center of who she is and grounding, and she stands on that, and she does not she has principles and integrity, and she doesn't back down even if
Yeah.
other people around her don't agree with her. Like, she's gotten a lot of blowback by not going to the inauguration, not going to certain funerals because she didn't
Yeah.
even want to be around people. But it's not so much of, oh, how could she not do that? She has a principle and she has certain things that she believes in, and she stands on that. And I think that
Yeah.
that speaks to somebody who has a tremendous amount of courage and bravery, and that was given to her by her parents. Not only that, she continued to nurture that, and I do think that's something that many people could look up to, independent of whether or not you believe about her, but you believe the same thing she does politically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, besides political, right? Like I said, like her, just her demeanor and
Mhm.
how she carries on with her self confidence. I mean, nothing really. I'm sure every human, if all the news and everything that bothers, but how you process it and how you show up
Yeah.
to the world really matters. And I
Mhm.
think I mean, she got said so many different negative things, right? Even sometimes about even her appearance. And she just like takes it like a champ, and she just
Mhm.
addresses it, just makes fun of it, or she just doesn't even give them the time of the day and she moves on. And I think that itself, every single one, no matter who you're who you're supporting politically or whatever, I think we all should aspire to be that grounded and that confident. And I think it's a self respect, right? Like it doesn't matter what the outside world is doing to you, and you are so grounded and have the self respect. So I'm on that path. So I really look up to her on that particular point of view.
And in the book, she talks about that and how she became that person, which is why it's called Becoming.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it all kind of connects from that perspective. But again, that was a podcast I listened to. Stephen, you didn't listen to any.
Well, I just wanted to chime in there. I think,
Uh-huh.
I agree that maybe I don't, want to,
You're over
maybe,
her, as you said. You're
yeah,
over her.
I may be over her, but I do think that she does serve as a great role model for not just young Black women, but also people in general about how to conduct yourself, how to react to people, how to build confidence, how to function in a lifestyle that she's chosen.
I think we need to get out too of saying that just because someone's black or just because someone's Indian or just because someone's Latino, that they're a good role model for that particular group of people. They could just
Hmm.
be a good role model in general.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
but
I think
they're
we've agreed that from her perspective, just her character and her grounding, her authenticity and her strength and character, but still the ability to be a person and express feelings. I mean, that's just something anyone can look up to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
But
Um,
I do think that if you can find, I think people connect better and understand better when it's someone of their own background.
I don't
Not
disagree with
always.
that. I just don't think that that's always has to be the case.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, possibly you're right.
I just think that you can find things good in everybody.
So
Depending
let's not
upon
go that far.
huh? Okay, maybe not everyone, but you can find good things in a variety of different people, even if they're not directly related to you from a cultural perspective. And I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying that that's not important. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that that's not important. What I am saying, it doesn't have to be the only thing.
Right, right, right. But I do think, especially in the climate that we're in, right? I do feel that if there's a uh, person of a minority background that can be looked up to, it should be called out because, looking at our whole environment right now in this country.
Well, we're not talking about political things this week. That's next week's
Oh, that's
conversation.
next week. That's right. Okay.
Tune in. Okay, so let's transition to AI. And I just wanted to talk with Stephen before I give you the microphone. I just wanted to mention a few things to people. So when we do have this segment, everyone, we talk about these things with regard to how they relate to everyday people. And one of the things that I realize that we do when we talk about, we might bring up an app, or we might bring up a policy, or we might bring up a discussion. I also was just thinking about all of the things that that come up with regard to where money is going and how fast this is happening. And we talk about how fast it's happening, but people don't really have a true sort of examples of what does it mean when we say how fast something is happening. How is that really affecting me? And so I wanted to outline that, if I can find my examples here, because I, for some reason now, I can't seem to find it. AI, is it insider? What is it?
And while you're doing that, let me just take a step back. Going,
Oh, here it is. I found it.
oh, great.
Because I knew you were going to go into
No, no, no.
a
Really
different
quickly,
a
just really
different
quickly.
topic.
I just want to go back to podcast for 1 second and just ask Shruti, have you ever listened to the podcast? This is my favorite podcast. It's called Bad Friends.
No,
Oh,
bad
I want you to hear it.
friends.
Bad Friends. It's brilliant. Brilliant.
Scruthy, he keeps trying to turn this show into Bad Friends.
That's not true. That's not. I can't just
And we are not them.
just just have a listen. Give me your thoughts later.
Okay, okay, I will. I'm very intrigued. Why? I mean, I'm actually not so surprised that you are attracted to something like bad friend's name, but I'm curious. I want to listen to it to see what part of your dark side connected with that.
Wow. Boy. Can we move on to AI now?
Oh, now you want to go back, huh? Now you. Oh, that was classic.
I did get permission from Steven to be absolutely authentic and be myself. He
and
said
that
he
was
wouldn't
clearly a
want me
mistake.
any other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm bringing my absolute best self.
This is amazing. I love it.
Okay, AI. Let's move on.
Okay. So, just with regard to AI, there are a few different newsletters that I keep up with, and as some of you may know too, I'm pretty close to the industry. But that being said, many of the new funding rounds, and if you a funding round, if you know anything about venture capital, it's a certain amount of money that a group of people will put into a company, and then from that certain amount of money, you can take a certain amount of um, estimation and forecast what the valuation will be for a company. So there was a company no one probably has heard of except for the people reading this or on this podcast listening to it, and the VCs, but Isomorphic Labs. They got $600 million, people, for
Wow.
advanced AI driven drug discovery. So there's a huge amount of money that's going into healthcare. And healthcare is something that affects us all every day, whoever is listening to this. So it's something to just keep in mind when you're going to the doctor, when you have your kids being involved, when you're talking to your doctor. Maybe even ask them, is there anything that's happening in the hospital right now that's related to AI that you're aware of, that you can tell me? Because you want to understand how that's going to impact your health on a daily basis. And I'm using this
Mhm.
as a very clear tactile discussion. Obviously, we have Sruthi on here, and we're going to be talking more about fitness and self-care and wellness. So I just thought that this would be a good conversation from an AI perspective. So they got, what did I say, $600 million for drug discovery. Another company, Character Biosciences, 93 million for AI driven
Wow.
eye disease therapy. I don't know what that is, but essentially they said they're using AI and clinical genetic data. Again, why you want to ask questions, clinical genetic data. That's usually your genes, your information. Its therapies are moving into trials backed by Bausch and Lomb. We know who Bausch and Lomb is.
Mhm.
They do, um, for anybody who has contacts. Like that's clear. So it's a small company you haven't heard of, but they're working with Bausch and Lomb. So if you have any sort of connection with that, it could be some of your genetic data that's being used in these trials. So just putting a lot of this out there again. Another company, $55 million to expand AI clinical co-pilot. What does that mean? They're already aiding 10,000 plus clinicians and 3M patients in about turning what mount they're turning mountains of patient data into actual care minus the paperwork. What does that mean? Right? Whose patient data? Is it ours? We think that it's protected by HIPAA, but if we've signed certain things away, we want to understand what that means from our healthcare perspective. So if you're going to the doctor, you're going to the even the eye doctor, you're doing some tests, there's nothing wrong with asking that question. Maybe the person doesn't know, but
Mm.
keep asking. And I just want to put that out there so people understand that these things are affecting them on an everyday basis, even if they think it's not. So that's my spiel on AI and healthcare right now. Stephen, I want to pass it on to you.
Yeah, to your Shruti, just to give you a little background on Robbie, she's a big skeptic about privacy, right? A little more than I am.
What?
Um,
I'm a big skeptic on wait, you have to explain. If you're going to talk about me while I'm in
oh,
the
here we go.
room,
Here we Well, listen, I
no, I'm
listen,
not a big
listen. No,
skeptic. I just think people need to understand
yes,
what the data is being used for. We know all our data is out there. I mean, a lot of we just opt into a lot of things because it's faster and easier and we want to move on. Let's be honest, right?
yeah, yeah,
Self included. But
yeah.
it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take the time to understand how it's being utilized and knowing how it specifically is going to affect us if we need to ask a question. So let me be
And
clear on that.
to your point, you know, I am very curious. We currently have HIPAA rules, right? But how much of the HIPAA rules applies to all the new AI that's coming out, right?
I don't
So we've signed, a privacy on, based on a certain framework of our current understanding of technology, right? So how much are we allowing to go through because we have not signed saying you cannot use this, right? Because of all the new AI technology. So they could be legally using our data because we haven't had the opportunity to say no, don't use this data.
yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to bring up something related to this. Actually, a part of it is that there is uh, new technology that's been developed using AI where it's been a collaboration between a corporation and a bunch of universities and researchers where they've developed a way to very with high precision determine the percentage chance of a person getting a cardiac arrest within 2 weeks of it happening. So it's a highly accurate predictive technology. If someone's in the hospital, they can monitor their heart and determine whether within 2 weeks they're going to have a cardiac arrest. Now, they are using millions of hours worth of data compiled from 240,000. Was it? Yeah, hold on. From Let me just take a look at this. Compiled from 240,000 ambulatory echocardiograms collected in 6 countries. So I don't think these patients have signed off to using their data to train AI.
I
Yeah.
don't know. And I don't know. Shruti, we've both been talking about this. What's your perspective on both these conversations?
I think I have this similar concern about it. I wouldn't say like there is no end to it. You have to some of the things like even terms and conditions you have to agree to certain things in order to even go to the next step. Like there is no way you can even bypass that. And then when they list out that there's so much in it that you're kind of set. to either use it or not use it. There's no middle ground. There is no stuff that you can choose. Like, you know how when we have these marketing, okay, do you want marketing materials also with this, or do you want
Mhm.
notifications? Like, it's not that anymore when it comes to AI. You have to give complete permission. And it also, even including, oh, can this app, if you're using a certain app to post a picture, you if you choose limited access, then there's not much, they restrict you. So they kind of force you, but without actually asking you, to
Mm,
hand over a lot of your stuff to it. So
mhm.
I think, it's good to be aware of it, of what we are signing up for. And for folks that are completely against it, they could choose not to use those. But I think one way or the other, they have all the information they need to take us down if they want to.
Yeah.
So I think, my thing is like, well, I'm not delusional that I am somehow protecting myself or have this privacy. I am just one of the, many that are in the same boat using. I worked in the AI, and I went to a lot of meetups, or different events talking about responsible AI. It's kind of an amazing thing that's happening, but also very dangerous if it's misused. And I don't know how it's even going to be regulated.
And that's a good point, right? Because we have to decide on an individual basis how much of our data do we want to give out? How much of our personal information do we want to give out? Um, because a lot of it can be used for good, right? So, for example, this predictive AI for determining whether someone's going to have a cardiac arrest, the thought is that it will eventually become available on consumer products like a smartwatch. So if I'm wearing a smartwatch, I could get an alert on on my smartwatch saying that, you're going to have a cardiac arrest. So it's the question is, how much am I willing to give up to enhance enhance medical capabilities, right? Enhance medical technology. Am I willing? And I guess that's a very personal decision.
But
Yeah,
again, but again, even if you say that we have to be able to decide how much data we want to give over, but to Shruti's point, it's already out there. The data's there. So it's more of understanding how is this data being used
Yeah.
and how is it going to impact me and what can I control in terms of the outcome. So for example, the technology you're talking about that would forecast whether or not you're going to have a heart attack.
Not a
Okay,
heart
so
attack,
it says
cardiac
in
arrest.
cardiac arrest, some cardiac event, let's say. All right, potato, potato. The the point is, if it forecasts this, okay, so what am I going to do? Am I just going to sit there and wait for it to happen? Can I do anything to
Well,
change the path? What are you
yes.
going to suggest to me? How do you know? And then the other thing, it's like, AI is only as good as the data that it's given. So while they're
Yes.
using all of these anonymized, I'm assuming they're saying that they're anonymized echocardiograms, who are they from? Where are they from? What's the person's genetic background? What do they have it in their family? Like, and how is all of that being translating and coalesced to build this? What models is it being built on? Who's building the models? Like, there's all these
Yeah,
different
yeah, yeah,
questions that go into this.
yeah.
Um,
And
so those are the things that I wonder, and those are the things that I think that we can ask to try to at least understand. If you have all my information, okay, how are you using this? How can it impact me, and how can it help me?
yeah,
Because I don't want to be sitting around for 2 weeks just waiting for this event to happen.
yeah. And to answer your question, high level, they're taking the heartbeat information, heartbeat data from millions of hours from hundreds of thousands of people, and they're monitoring. They're basically figuring out what change in heartbeat determines results in a cardiac arrest, and they're using all of those different types of heartbeat data to determine, uh, okay, how does this compare to the person that we're monitoring? So, is this person that we're monitoring right now, if we look at his heartbeat data, how does it compare to the data we've collected from from millions of hours of data? How does it compare to that all that data for people that have had cardiac arrest in the past.
Okay, but again, how does it compare? They're looking at what can that person do in the meantime? I don't hear
Well,
that.
you seek medical attention. You know, so
But is the
you go to.
company that's creating this, are they going to give people line of sight as to what they can do if this does come up? Or they're just saying, "Oh, go see a doctor." I mean, this is what I'm just trying to make a point here about how this comes to be and how
Yeah,
we as patients or individuals
yeah,
need to press these organizations and entities to provide more solution based things if they're going to use all this data and they're going to say
yeah,
this is great. It's great to have a warning signal, but okay,
yeah,
what do you do next,
yeah,
right?
and that's
Like,
all in development. Yes, there has to be a solution path, absolutely, in order for this to be useful. Yeah.
so that's just my question. So I think this is a great time for us to segue into an amazing conversation. Stephen, I'm going to pass it to you so you can
Ah,
talk to
yes,
Ruthie about
our
her
human interest
journey of Xener. If
segment.
I have any questions, I'll chime in, but I'm going to give you the floor.
Oh, please, please chime in, Shruti. How are you?
Yes, I am doing well. And thanks
So,
for having me here.
yeah, we're thrilled to have you here. There's two different aspects that I wanted to kind of dig in with you, which I think people will find interesting, right? So there's one, the first part we can talk about is you were in corporate America and you decided to move your career into your passion, where your passion was. So you transitioned out of your corporate career and you made your passion your career. And so, I think you have a very inspirational story, and I think a lot of people would be interested to hear how you went about it. What was the point where you realized, okay, let me make my passion my my full time career? Was it like all of a sudden? Did you do a slow transition? Were you doing both things at the same time? What was going through your head? How did you get the balls to actually to do this?
Yeah. Oh, it's a long journey. It was not a sudden move. I've been a dancer and in sports, like an athlete pretty much all my life. I've all through my school I participated both in dance and in sports, just in living an active life, and thanks to my parents who fully supported me through that. And I actually don't know what I would what I would have done if that I didn't continue, because so many kids that I played sports with, so many kids I danced with today, they talk about, oh, we used to dance, or we used to do these, and just live a completely different lifestyle. And some of them do, still carry on. But I I remember even when I was like even talking about like the dance and the fitness, they're two different worlds. And I used to have a dance class right after my school, and then but I also used to be in sports. So my sports coach was never restricting me to go to my dance classes, but my dance instructor would say, you're playing too many sports and you're learning this like traditional dance. Sometimes you have to like cut down on the sports so you don't lose your the grace. And I was like, I cannot just pick one or the other. And I cannot believe these many years passed, and not anymore at this point, but even like a few years ago, people would always used to say, wait, so you do dance and like fitness? Like, of course now so much of the dance fitness world has taken over, but people used to say you got to choose one or the other. You're like all over the place. So I hear that quite often.
Mhm.
Not anymore at the moment, maybe because of the way I respond to things now, that people don't want to say anything and get on on that argument with me. But you know, I remember always saying I don't want to choose one or the other. I think I'm a strong dancer because I'm in sports, and I think I do well in sports because I have the discipline from, being a student in dance. So, yeah, they go well hand in hand. And I continued that journey throughout my life, like no matter what I did in my um, work site. So I always found a community that did hiking. I always found a community that played, some sort of recreational activity, and I would do it for my own fitness. And I always found a dancer. I always
Hmm.
found my way to, so it's something that I continue to do it. And I would always like be in a conversation with me for 15, 20 minutes. You will hear me talk about dance and fitness so passionately that people will ask me more about it. So that's how, I remember working for Wells Fargo, and I was a banker, and I started to get some of my clients say, "Oh, you perform? Maybe
Hmm.
you can perform at my son's wedding. What are your charges?" And then I was like, "Oh, wait, this is like something's coming up right here. I can actually totally perform." So
Mm.
most of it came through for me. It's just me doing my own, sharing my passion story. I,
Interesting.
I and then people saying, "Oh, if you do that, well, maybe you can perform." And then I never told them I never performed for this occasion. Every time I get a new opportunity, they will never know that they will be my first client in that
Ah,
area.
okay.
I always said, "Oh, great. Well, let me get back to you on the pricing, or let me get back to you on that." So I just took some time to like, but they would never think, because I always gave an impression that all of them, I mean, I won't be performing for the first time. I'm just going to be performing in that particular scenery, like, you know, like a wedding for the first time, but I've performed all my life, right? So I just never, and I do hear other people like say, "Oh, I never did that, but maybe I should do it." So I just eliminated that kind of wording, because that
Interesting.
can make you look like you're not confident about what you want to do. I just looked at, it's like, oh, if I could do this, then it's just a matter of different stage,
Hmm.
different room. It's,
That's a great
so
mindset. And
yeah, and
it sounds like
that's,
what you're saying is you had such a deep passion for it all through your life that it just came through in your conversations, and that
yeah.
helped you in that transition. It helped you because it was a part of your normal conversation with people. That passion came through, and they were like, "Well, we want to be a part of this experience with you."
Yeah, so absolutely, you nailed it. And most of it came through, I then was working, it just like me just sharing who I am and what I love. The people can see that, oh, this is something that you really like. And I think me just communicating that story just took me to different opportunities and different rooms, I would say. And so I continue that with no matter what job I did. I did that in financial space. And then it was a little bit difficult in the financial space to expand into making that a business, because I was there is some restrictions with my job, SEC, being a financial advisor. So I felt a little bit restricted in that, like, what is it that I can do? I'm like playing such a small game in terms of like making money through my dance and fitness or any of that, but even that seemed a little restricted to me. So most of my clients were in the tech space at that time. So I just thought, oh man, tech is like always experimenting new things. And I think my personality fits more in that space. So I always loved having the deeper connection in the financial space with my clients.
Hmm.
And I just didn't see tech in that same space. I thought tech is more like you have to have this like technology background, know how to code, know all these. So when I discovered to just use my skill set from financial background, which is building connections,
Hmm.
building the trust. When I moved into the tech space, I just blossomed. I literally worked for Oracle and taught my dance fitness class in the gym, and that was the beginning of my corporate wellness.
Nice, nice. And that was another question I wanted to ask you is that um, a lot of people would not one of the reasons, one of the barriers would be the whole business aspect, starting your own business, going from corporate America, working in a structured environment, switching over to starting your own business. And in addition to your passion, having the business acumen to do it. But if you have a basic understanding, there are tools that you can make use of to get started.
Yeah, so I personally think people always try to separate what they are doing with work and what they do in passion. Even I get that asked a lot when I would say, oh, I'm a dancer, and say, oh, but that you do that for fun, right? Like somehow I'm not supposed to make any money, or somehow I'm not supposed to make. So you will get into those conversations with a lot of people, because not to down, not to put anybody down or anything, but most people cannot think that way, that they could actually do what they love to do, and it's not something
Mhm.
cheesy out there. It's truly, you can actually do what you love to do. The consequences will be different. You may not be making the same money, or it may be different path, and you have to go through a certain hurdles, but it is possible if you really want to do it.
Mhm.
And then there are tools, but I think people already tell themselves that that is supposed to be something that they do for passion and not for career. So when you already have those preconceived notions, it does take a little bit longer, or you have to maybe meet somebody in that field who has done it, and then even then you will think, oh, it's possible for these people because they did this and this and this. Oh, they come from money, or they, all of these things and stories that we tell ourselves.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, I was one of them. I was just fortunate to be around certain people that were, I think, I consider them as like my mentors, and just being in this positive and no boundaries in terms of thinking had helped me. So a lot of people that I came across, I think people is my strength, I would say, who I attract. Um, so they had helped me realize, well, that's not true, that you could do this. So I was fortunate to be in those conversations who may challenged my own thinking.
Mhm.
Um, when I was, but I still get right. Now I'm more confident about what I do. So when I go to perform at certain weddings, and people say, oh, so you do this for fun, so what do you do, what do you have another job? Like
Mhm.
I do many different things, but I told myself I'm going to just sit in that discomfort and say, yes, I'm a dancer, I'm a or if I go into corporate wellness, I say I'm a wellness coach, and then I just sit there, because I don't want to justify to somebody
Yeah.
or anybody that somehow this is like, oh, a fun thing, but I have another job. And even when I had the other job, I tried to just be comfortable, because most of the time it is us who have to be comfortable. It's nothing to do with other people, and they can see that. And sometimes
Mhm.
when they do, and which switched for me, is when people said, oh, so you do this full time? How are you making it possible? Like,
Mhm.
how can you live in the Bay Area when
Yeah.
the prices are so high and still? So then they're actually intrigued. So not a lot of times people are judging you, they are just curious. So I just switched that in my mind, that hey, they're not asking me so they could judge me that I'm not, making as much money, or they people are curious because this is not something a lot of people choose to do. Um, and to answer your question, like there are tools and stuff, I would say being actually working in the corporate world, I always say this, like working in the corporate world helped me build business. Work being an artist or an athlete helped me build connection. So I think those two things that when you marry those two things, those are two powerful things. You need to know how to build business, and you also need to know the audience that you are dealing with, and the room that you are in, and how to actually connect with them, and use your
Mhm.
creative side to
Mhm.
mold that experience. So I think they both played a big role. It's not one or the other for me. And
Mhm.
no matter when I go into the corporate wellness now, I don't, corporate world has taught me to ask these discovery questions,
Mhm.
right? Even though I hate all the sales calls, or not hate it, but it's like sometimes it's jarring. I use the same exact
Yeah.
methods that I learned in my business now, but I think the way corporate world like shoves it in your throat is different.
Yeah.
But when you really understand why you do that and what you get out of it at the end result, you will naturally do it. And it's the same thing, right? When you don't tell people what to do, show them why it's important. When they see the value in it, they you don't have to tell them what to do. They will find a way to do it.
Sister
So,
Ruthie, can you talk about like when you're doing your practice and with so many of the classes that you have, at least that I saw, um, just how it relates to so many people talk about self-care. So many people talk about, maintaining a point of stability and equilibrium, decreasing your cortisol. Can you talk about how your practice helps people get to that point?
In terms of like
The
how
dance
to.
classes, the things that you do, the consultation services that you offer to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I have, the classes that I teach in the corporate world. I go to different companies and I teach them uh, based on, different companies has a list of things that they could choose. Either it's a stretch class, or either it's like, oh, my employees just want to learn how to do some basic stretches while they're at their desk. So I do chair desk stretches, simple things that they could do when you don't need a mat for it. You don't need this whole 1 hour keeping it aside. It's like do it on a as you go and on a day-to-day basis. Release that tension. So those are simple things that I share in the corporate wellness side. But I also have my own app, which is called Shruti Ready Fitness, which is really working with busy professionals, assigning them a good effective 15-minute workout. Most of my clients are in executive level at their companies. They are the decision makers of what they do, but when they come home they don't want to think about what they have to do. They just want someone to just assign it. They have so many other things that they have to do in their home,
mm,
dinner, or getting prepared for the next day. So
Mhm,
they don't want to make another decision. So I come in where they're not thinking about what even to go on YouTube and look for the workout that suits them, what muscles. So it's a program that gives them a 15-minute to 20-minute workout that they could do quickly
mhm,
from the convenience of their home, no matter what they're traveling. They could even listen to a podcast while they're working out. It
mhm,
just counts them. They could put the phone in front of them and just get the workout in. So just to kind of like making it simple, effective, and also I believe in sustainable
mhm,
habits, instead of just like having jumping from one program to the other. Oh, jumpstart a program. Mine is like fitness is life. If you can
mhm,
make these changes slowly, that will benefit you. That will be part of your life for the rest of your life.
and
So
this
it's
leads
not.
to better mental and physical health. Is that the ultimate goal of what you're trying to give to other people?
Yes, it's my entire goal is, to me, workout never is a chore. Never is something
mhm,
that, oh my God, I have to do it. I need to get it done. It is literally part of me. I enjoy it. I do it. And my goal is to, as I, going through this process, I'm learning so many people take workout as like this, thing that they have to do to look good or to do. But what if they don't have to think about it, and it's something that comes like, I need to eat, and you eat. It's like as
Hmm.
mhm,
enjoyable as eating, as enjoyable as watching a show. So my way is to just show them that value so they don't have to really overwhelm themselves. So creating that, you know that joy in whatever form. And that's why I don't restrict. Like, if walking is the one that's giving you the joy, let's
mhm,
go. And if I remember one of my clients saying, I hate mountain climbers. Why do you always make me do mountain climbers? And I said, I can see you don't have to do mountain climbers. There's so many other things that we could choose from.
mhm,
But I just had this one conversation, and I said, you go hiking quite often, and sometimes she goes hiking and then she skips 2 weeks of my classes because she had ankle injury. I said, the reason give you mountain climbers, I know you hate them because they're too much on your ankles, but you have to grow that strength so then you can go and enjoy hiking.
Hmm.
Once you
mhm,
have strong ankle, then you could go. You don't have to take a break from hiking or any classes. So when I connected those two, she's like, oh, well, go, damn it, I'll just do mountain climbers. I don't care if it's going to strengthen my. So I think people just need to like connect, and that's just an example, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, you don't have, there's so many other ways you can strengthen it. But when I just shared her that, I'm like, hey, you're not doing mountain climbers to lose fat or to do, you don't connect to that. Then you're like, it becomes a chore. But if you say you're strengthening your ankle, you're going to have strong ankles. And there is something powerful in when you connect people with strength, strong, instead of like losing weight. They
Mm.
just chore. When you say
Mm-hmm.
strong, you're building strength. The energy is so different, and the way you feel. So you're just going to be stronger in carrying the groceries. You're going to be just stronger. You don't have to
Just
be
daily
making
living.
up pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I speak to that.
How many, do you mind sharing with us how many clients you have and how many companies you work with? Not naming them, but just like the numbers.
Oh, good question. I just don't. So I'll share another part of my business that gives you an
Mhm.
idea. So I have a lot of, this is also something that I learned from working in the corporate world, cross sell, right? So you have cross sell and you have partnerships. I bank on partnerships a lot. I don't view as, anytime somebody looks at me as a competition, I find a way for them to find me as a partner in whatever they're doing.
Mm.
So it's a compliment. So I have so many different partners in every area of my business. So I'm not the only one hustling to find my next client. I have people who
Mm.
are doing that, and I cover for them. And when I go in through there, and I'm their partner. I don't talk about what I do individually.
Mhm.
So because I have so many partners, I do have companies that I go in and teach, which are just one time, or
Mhm.
even it could
Mhm.
be seasonal. So I do have quite a few like that. I don't have an exact number, and sometimes I don't even think about the client. I just, if my partner calls and say, "Hey, can you cover this particular companies for so and so session?" I just take it and then I go in. And my goal at that time is to make them fall in love with whatever that session is, to make all their employees feel amazing, so they come back to me. They go back to my partner and say, you know what, I want that girl. I want that girl to come back to us. So
Hmm.
I don't talk about what I do. I don't direct them to my website or anything. As long as they give business to my partner, I'll get business
So
because
you've built like this sort of like intricate partner ecosystem where you have these
correct,
relationships and they'll pull you into different companies. It could be for a one-time engagement or it could be a multi-engagement, depending upon what they
correct.
need or not need. But your partner ecosystem is your strength. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. So in the beginning, when I did corporate wellness, they were all directly clients that I reached out to.
Hmm.
What I would consider is I would teach these group exercise classes for whatever the classes that I was teaching while I was working at the companies. And when I taught at studios, I started, teaching at studios. I had so many people in San Francisco come to those classes. They all work in tech. So because I also worked in tech, or
Mm.
generally I like the connection, I would ask them what companies they work for, or we would just become friends. And they
Hmm.
would always want me to come to their company because I would tell them that I do corporate wellness, I teach at different companies. So when I say that, they would immediately connect and say, well, you can teach at my company. I say, well, connect me with the HR. So I
Hmm.
would just direct them who they need to speak to. And then they would say, go back to their company and say, hey, who do I speak to in terms of for hosting these classes? I go to this class, she's amazing, I want, maybe she can come and teach us a class. And that conversation just like led to one to the other, and I got more companies on my end. And but that's me individually hustling.
Yeah.
So then there are corporate wellness companies that has built a roster of like uh, different sessions, different wellness instructors.
Hmm.
So I was like, these people are going out and doing in a massive scale. They actually have people just calling into different companies. They're like corporate wellness, but they're also a corporation of themselves, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
So then I say, I want to be a contractor with them.
Oh,
So
okay.
when they want to send somebody in, they send me. So I kind of compete with them, but I also complement, like work with them. And I found partners like that in different areas. So when it comes to dance, Indian like wedding choreographies and stuff, I partner with wedding planners,
Mm-hmm.
decorators, and photographers. So I'm in their ecosystem, and I do the same for them, right? I
Mm-hmm.
refer them clients, they refer me. So then I also do event coordinator. So sometimes event planners may think that I'm their competitor, but when they refer me to a client, I become the dance part of it. If they refer me as a dancer, I'll just stay in my lane because I want
Mm-hmm.
to respect their relationship. But when I'm on my own, I go on into different areas. So yeah, when just leading, taking that. Um, I think Stephen asked me the very, how did you move into quitting that job? So I kind of did all these different things. I was also modeling, commercial modeling, but everything at a smaller scale. And some of
Mm-hmm.
these things
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it because of my, schedule. So when 2020 hit,
So
and
I will say
the
this,
time,
Ruthie, and I don't mean to cut you off because this is a great story, but we are coming up on time to a little bit. So I just had one question before I gave it over to Stephen to finish the interview is what would you tell our audience if they're having a hard time just starting to move? Like, there's a lot of people who work from home and they go from
yeah,
like their desk to the couch, right? Like they do their work
yeah.
and then they go relax and they watch TV. What would you tell them? What would be 1 to 2 things that you would suggest to them? And then Stephen, I'll give it to you to kind of wrap it up.
In terms of taking care of yourself, is that what you were asking?
Just even one exercise,
For
one
example,
Yeah,
thing
my
to
office is my
self-care,
bed.
so
yeah.
yeah, like that's a bad example,
Now
right? That's
the
a perfect example.
simplest thing we can all do is literally after you eat the meal. I think when you work at the office, you do that a lot because sometimes even walking to the kitchen, walking to the bathroom, or walking to your coworker's desk is like steps that you're putting in without actually thinking about it. But all of those goes out the window when you're working from home because everything is so close by. Your kitchen is like, no matter if, unless you're living in a mansion, they're all kind of like nearby, right?
Mhm,
So the one thing that I tell people is, yes, not only just standing desk, but if after your meal, if you can just take a 15-minute walk, or even if you're on a call, keep walking, move around for your calls. You don't, if you
mm,
can, if you're not on a video call, move around. And there are simple desk stretches that you can do. Same thing that you would do on a mat, like literally going with your back bend, the cat cows. If you can release that tension and not hold it all the way till the end of the day, you
mhm,
will feel so much relief. And you sometimes don't know that you're holding that pain because we are tend to numb our stuff. But once you start actually stretching, you will show your body will communicate that tightness where you need extra love, where you need to release it. So just close your eyes and breathe into that, and your body will communicate. So kind of start listening to your body as
Hmm.
it's talking to you, and just know that it is talking to you. And so if the one exercise that I can share is after your meal, after your breakfast, after your lunch, after your dinner, just take 10 minutes to move. And if you don't know to go on a walk, get on the phone call, listening to the podcast, just move at
mhm.
least 10 minutes.
I'm gonna
That
take your advice.
makes a difference.
I'm fortunate enough to maintain my muscular physique, even though my office is my bed. But I, you know, I do know that I need to move my body around more because I can feel a difference between, when I used to work in an office and move around a lot
Mhm,
versus working from home in my bed.
for sure.
Yeah, good thing that the audience don't know that you're lying about your muscular physical thing.
Why?
But
Why are
you
you
know,
doing this? Why? Why?
at least me, I can keep my mouth shut. But
Why
oh
is
wait,
that?
this is recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
Why
I
is
just
that
busted
necessary?
you out.
Why is that
Told your
necessary?
audience.
Stephen, do
So
you
I
have a
I went.
last question before we wrap today?
Yeah. So, well, you know what? I was gonna compliment you. You know what? I'll still go ahead and compliment you, Shruti, because we're not gonna see this again. But I wanted to say that Shruti actually, I feel like she sells her own service without actually selling it because I've known her for a long time, and up till today, she is still the biggest ball of energy that I know. I don't know anyone
Oh,
that has more energy than her. So, selling her service probably comes easier to her than, the standard person. And actually, when I was in the Bay Area and she was teaching her Bali X classes. So Bali X classes, Shruti, can you quickly just explain what Bali X is?
yeah. So Bollyx is a format that I teach. Just like dance, it's one of the companies that I really connected with when I was, doing my own Bollywood dance as a fitness. I said, well, and I think Bollyx started at the very same time as I was pivoting back in 2014. So instead of doing my own fitness, I really liked their format, so I joined. So it's one of the formats that I teach, which really brings both of my worlds together, which is Indian dancing as well as the fitness world. So it's the new type. Well, it's not new anymore. It's now we're over 10 years old. So for the last 10 years, I've taken that format into heart, and I
Mm.
teach that alongside all the other formats that I teach. But definitely, this is one of my favorites.
When I was there, my friends were always trying to convince me to join her classes because it was a great workout. And I was always intimidated because I used to watch your videos online and on social media. And I was thinking there's no way I'm going to survive this. I'll be done in 2 minutes. I can't do it. But that's the level of energy that she brings. Is actually I should, the other thing that my friends used to tell me that why don't you they used to try to tempt me into coming and say, you can go there and you can meet women. So let's briefly talk about the real juicy stuff. Is Balyax a great place to meet women?
Okay,
You know,
so we're at an hour and 5 minutes, which
You
is
know, just when
usually a
we're
little
getting
bit
into the good
over
stuff. This is the
what we
important
would
stuff.
do. I don't know, Shruti, if this is where we want to go in terms of completing the conversation,
I
Stephen.
really thought this was the
well,
important
it
stuff.
doesn't have to be Bali. When you love what you do, and you will find like-minded people. So if you're not someone who is, maybe you will meet some girl, but then the girl probably wants to meet somebody who wants to enjoy dancing, who wants to do those things. So if you want
That's
the
a good
right
point.
match,
That's a very good point. Um,
Well, on that point, I think that we should say, I mean, we would love to have you back, Shruti, and I mean, maybe we should even do a, a mini pod,
yes.
specifically just on Bali X, what you're doing, how it's been helping different constituents. I think that would be a good podcast, honestly. But for today, Stephen, it's
we will
time
talk
for us to
about
say
the other topics later.
yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
Shruti, how can people connect with you? What's your website?
Um,
What's your
yes. So I have my own lifestyle, dance, everything that I do on Instagram called Ready to Dance. My
Mhm.
last name is Reddy, Reddy, and number two, Dance. I just also launched a new page called Shruti Reddy Fitness, where I wanted to dedicate that space just for fitness and wellness, like little tidbits of like or exercises that people don't have to go through my entire page to find, but hopefully I'll like curate that page where people can do upper body workout when they're traveling, like they can easily kind of learn fitness and wellness tips as evolving more in the corporate world wellness side of things. I just thought maybe it would be good to just kind of dedicate a page for that. So either one of those Instagram pages or my website, if you go into www.shrutireddy.com, you can learn a little bit more about me and all the things that I do. And if there is any conversation that you guys are wanting to have besides all these, feel free to reach out anyways.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having me. It was lovely
Absolutely.
being part of this conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Shruti. Really, really
Thank
pleased
you.
that you came to join us. Hang on before we end the call because we do need to like all stay on towards the end. That's just a housekeeping piece. But just, I mean, audience, thank you so much. We had a great conversation from a fitness perspective. Love
Wait,
Shruti.
There was
Love the
one other
conversation.
thing I
So
wanted
please
to.
follow us. Please like us and tune in for next week. All right,
And one
Steven. No
other
more.
really
No,
quickly.
Steven.
Oh,
Steven.
this is the best part.
Steven.
Okay. All right. All right. This is Stephen Kennedy, your board certified atheist, at your service. Thank you,
Thank
my
you,
friend.
everyone. Oh my goodness. Oh.